It began with a whisper, carried across the stars. Then, every holoscreen in the galaxy lit up at once. Broadcast channels crashed, military networks froze, an entire planet stopped what they were doing as one message took over the system. On the shimmering screen stood Prince Arian of the Valkyrie Empire, heir to the most feared and ancient throne in the Orion Arm. His silver eyes glowed softly, his long, radiant armor marked with the crest of his family, a circle surrounded by 7 burning stars. But what caught everyone's breath wasn't the prince himself. It was the woman beside him. She was human. Her name appeared in glowing script beneath her image. Captain Lyra Hayes, United Earth Fleet. Billions watching the transmission leaned closer, confused, disbelieving. Humans were nearly extinct, scattered and forgotten after the collapse of their last colonies a century ago. No one had seen a living human on any official broadcast in decades. Yet there she stood, holding the prince's hand. Arian's voice was calm, steady, almost defiant. By my oath and by the stars that birthed us, I declare this union, not as a treaty, not as politics, but as truth. I have taken Captain Lyra Hayes of Earth as my wife. The galaxy erupted. The holofeed fractured under the weight of chaos. Across the Empire's core worlds, millions screamed in disbelief. On the mining colonies of Theros 9, workers threw down their tools. In the shimmering capital city of Alindra Prime, the Emperor's banners burned as protests spread through the crystal streets. The sacred bloodline of the Valkyrie, unbroken for millennia, had been defiled by an outsider. Within minutes, emergency sessions were called in every major government. The Galactic Council went into lockdown. On the shadowed moon of Serek, a conclave of admirals met in secret, their voices cold and sharp. "This cannot stand," hissed Admiral Reth. "The royal blood is divine. If he marries a lesser being, the Empire loses its power." But another voice spoke, deeper, cautious. "And yet, she's human. The same species the Valkyrie once feared. The same species that vanished after the Exodus War. Why now? Why her?" No one had an answer. Meanwhile, deep within the royal palace, King Theros, Arian's father, watched the broadcast in silence. The throne room was dark, lit only by the faint glow of floating orbs that mirrored the prince's image. End the transmission, the king ordered at last, his voice colder than the void. "And find them." Across the Empire, fleets began to move. In hidden corners of the galaxy, people whispered. Some said the human woman had bewitched the prince. Others said she carried ancient knowledge, the kind that could destroy empires. On the planet Varel, the news reached the underworld first. Smugglers, mercenaries, data brokers, all saw an opportunity. Bounties began to circulate on encrypted channels. One message repeated over and over. "Capture the human alive. Deliver her to the Eye of Sol." No one knew who the Eye of Sol was. Some said it was a dead human fleet. Others, a secret order that served no government, only the stars themselves. Meanwhile, far from the reach of any fleet, aboard a small vessel drifting through the rings of a dead moon, Lyra and Arian stood in the dim light of their private cabin. Lyra was still wearing her old flight jacket. The emblem of Earth's lost fleet faded on her shoulder. She looked out through the glass canopy at the sea of stars, thousands of them burning in silence. "They'll come for us," she said softly. Arian smiled, though his eyes were troubled. "They already have. But for once, I will not run from the truth." Lyra turned to face him. "Truth? You call this truth? You just declared war on your own people." "I declared peace," he said quietly. "They just don't see it yet." She laughed bitterly. "Peace doesn't start with a wedding, Arian. It ends with one." He reached out, touching her face gently, his silver eyes glowing faintly. "Do you regret it?" Lyra hesitated. In that moment, the noise of the galaxy felt far away, the hate, the fear, the shouting. She saw only him, the man who had once saved her life when her ship was trapped in Valkyrie space. The man who had chosen love over a throne. "No," she said finally. "I don't regret it. But I wish you'd told me what your father really is." Arian's expression darkened. "He's not just my father," he said. is the guardian of something ancient, something that must never wake. Lyra frowned. What are you talking about? Before he could answer, the ship's alarms began to blare. Red lights washed over the cabin. Multiple signatures approaching, the ship's AI reported in a calm voice. Valkyrie warships, closing fast. Arian's eyes flashed. They found us. Lyra ran to the controls, her fingers flying over the console. We can't outrun them. Not in this rust bucket. He placed his hand over hers. Then we don't run. She turned toward him, eyes wide. You can't mean. But he was already moving, activating a sequence on the ship's command board. The screens filled with lines of ancient Valkyrie code, glyphs that pulsed like living fire. What are you doing? Lyra shouted. Something forbidden, Arian said. Something even my father fears. Outside, the stars began to twist. Space itself seemed to ripple. As the first enemy ship locked weapons, Lyra's vessel vanished in a flash of white light, swallowed by the void. And across the galaxy, a voice older than any empire stirred awake, whispering in a language long forgotten. The bond has been made. The cycle begins again. To the rest of the galaxy, it was chaos. To the stars, it was prophecy. When the light faded, Lyra found herself staring into a whirlpool of shifting colors. Space around the ship wasn't black anymore. It was alive. Swirling ribbons of silver and blue danced across the viewports, moving like a living storm. The ship's systems flickered, struggling to make sense of what just happened. The navigation console screamed error after error, while the AI's calm voice repeated. Unknown coordinates. Dimensional variance detected. Recommend full power down. Lyra grabbed the control handles. What did you do? Arian, she demanded. The prince stood beside her, eyes glowing faintly with the same hue as the storm outside. I opened the path of the ancients, he said softly. It's a place between worlds, where time can't follow us. She turned sharply. You what? You just dropped us into some kind of myth. Arian didn't answer. He was staring out the viewport, as if listening to something only he could hear. Lyra exhaled hard, rubbing her temples. She'd been through 100 impossible missions, black holes, dying suns, rogue AI wars, but nothing like this. And yet, deep inside, she wasn't surprised. Not really. Arian had always carried something strange within him, something beyond his royal title or his calm voice. To understand him, she had to remember how they met. It had been 3 standard years ago. Lyra's ship, the Solace, had been limping through Valkyrie space, running low on fuel and half her crew in stasis. Earth's United Fleet was gone, destroyed in the Outer Rim collapse. She was one of the last surviving captains, wandering among alien systems that no longer remembered humanity as anything more than a ghost story. Her crew was a mix of outcasts, a quiet android navigator named Varen, a reptilian engineer from Dral V, and a medic who spoke 13 alien languages but none fluently. They took small jobs, salvage, escort, sometimes smuggling medical supplies through blockades. They weren't heroes, just survivors. Then, one day, their senses caught a strange signal. It came from a dead moon orbiting a blue giant. No life, no atmosphere, no reason for anything to be transmitting there. The signal pulsed in patterns that looked almost like music. Varen decoded part of it. It's old Valkyrie script, he said. Thousands of years older than their current empire. It mentions something called the Song of Soul. Lyra had laughed then. We're not chasing fairy tales, Varen. But the signal kept calling every 12 hours, same tone, same melody. And then, one night, it changed. It spoke her name. That's when she decided to go. The moon had been nothing but rock and ruins, towers melted by time, strange symbols carved into stone that shimmered when touched. That was where she first saw him. Prince Arian wasn't wearing royal armor then. He was dressed like an explorer, standing alone in front of an ancient archway glowing with faint light. When Lyra and her crew landed, he didn't threaten them. He simply asked, "Do you hear it too?" She did. The same melody that had haunted her ship now hummed through the air around them, deep and sad, as if the ruins themselves were singing. Arian told her he had followed the same signal from his palace, that it had been forbidden since the founding of his empire. That was how it began. Two wanderers, one human, one alien prince, both drawn to a mystery older than their people. Now, inside the glowing storm of the path, Lyra felt that same melody again, vibrating in her bones. "You planned this, didn't you?" she said, her voice quiet but sharp. "This wasn't just about us running away. You knew what would happen when you announced our marriage." Arian looked at her, pain flickering behind his calm expression. "The moment I chose you, I knew the old powers would awaken. My father kept their secret buried. But I cannot live in lies. Your father will come after us," she said. "I know. And the rest of the galaxy." He smiled faintly. "They will panic. But panic is how truth begins." Lyra shook her head. "You don't understand humans, Arian. We've seen what panic does. It destroys everything." He stepped closer. "And yet you survived it. You, a human captain, standing before the fall of your species, and you still look at the stars. That's why I love you." She wanted to answer, but before she could, the ship shuddered violently. Warning lights flashed red. "Energy surge," the AI announced. "Something is following us through the path." Lyra rushed to the sensors. Her heart froze. A shadow was forming behind them. Something massive, shifting like smoke, but with eyes. "What is that?" she whispered. Arian's voice trembled for the first time. "The Watchers. They guard the path. They were never meant to wake." The shadow stretched toward them, its tendrils scraping across the hull like claws of glass. The ship's shields flared, then dimmed. Lyra gritted her teeth. "Can we fight it?" "No," Arian said, stepping to the controls. "But we can escape it." He placed his hand on a glowing panel, and the same ancient code appeared, symbols older than language. The storm around them swirled faster, pulling the ship forward. Lyra caught his arm. "Where will this take us?" Arian looked at her, his voice calm but sad. "Where all truths begin." The ship shot through the storm, vanishing into a tunnel of white light. Behind them, the Watcher screamed, a sound that wasn't heard, but felt. When the light cleared, they were no longer in the path. Stars burned bright around them, and a planet hung below, green, blue, alive. The ship's AI spoke again. "Location identified, orbit of Virel 3, a restricted world, classified by the Thalkari Empire as sacred," Arian finished softly. Lyra looked at him, stunned. "You brought us to a holy world." He nodded. "Because this is where it all began, where humans and Thalkari were one." Lyra stayed down at the planet, her breath caught between fear and wonder. She didn't know yet that the moment they landed, the entire galaxy would move to stop them. The planet below them shimmered like a jewel, green forests wrapped in silver mist, oceans glinting with light that seemed to pulse like breath. But as the solace descended through the clouds, Lyra felt a strange heaviness press against her chest, as if the air itself remembered. "Atmosphere stable," the ship's AI reported. "But there is an anomaly. This world's energy signature matches both human and Thalkari genetic resonance." Lyra frowned. "How can a planet have a genetic signature?" "It can't," the AI said simply. Arian was silent, staring at the planet's surface. "It can if it was made," he whispered. They landed in the ruins of a city, a vast circle of marble towers and broken spires, half buried under vines and time. At the center stood a giant statue, weathered by millennia, two figures holding hands, one human, one Thalkari. Lyra stepped out of the ship, her boots crunching on the cracked stone. The wind smelled faintly of ozone and rain. "This place is ancient," she said softly. "Older than your empire, older than Earth's space age." Arian nodded. "This was the first world, the place where our ancestors met the ones we call the architects." He knelt beside a slab of stone covered in glowing runes, brushing away dust. "My tutors told me this world was cursed, forbidden. But I found a record in the royal archives, a single line erased from history. From the union of flesh and light, the stars were born anew." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like a riddle." It's more than that, he said, touching the runes. It's the origin of our blood. As he spoke, the runes began to glow brighter, reacting to his touch. A low hum filled the air, soft at first, then growing into a deep vibration that shook the ground. Lyra stepped back, alarmed. Arian, what's happening? He didn't answer. His eyes went white, his body stiffening. The runes beneath his hand pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Arian! Lyra shouted, grabbing him, and the moment her skin touched his, a surge of energy shot through them both. Suddenly, she wasn't standing in ruins anymore. She was somewhere else. She saw a vast chamber filled with light, beings of energy moving through water and air, shaping matter with their hands. Worlds bloomed from their gestures, stars ignited from their breath. Then she saw two figures, one like Arian, one like herself, walking toward each other beneath a sunless sky. When they touched, light poured from their palms, forming a spiral of stars above them. A voice echoed through her mind. Calm, ancient, unending. The cycle repeats. The blood remembers. Then the vision shattered. Lyra gasped and stumbled backward, breaking the contact. Arian fell to his knees, breathing hard, sweat gleaming on his skin. What was that? She whispered. He looked up at her, eyes glowing faintly again. A memory, he said. Not mine. Ours. Lyra shook her head. That's impossible. Is it? Arian stood slowly. Our two species share too many similarities. Bone, blood, even instinct. The Royal Archives said humans were an echo of the Valkyrie, but they lied. The truth is, we were both created by the same hands. The architects, Lyra said quietly. He nodded. And my father has known all along. That's why he forbade contact with your kind. Because if we learn the truth, that the Valkyrie are not divine, not born from starlight, but made, the empire collapses. Lyra stared at him, her heart pounding. You're saying your people built their power on a lie? Yes, a lie so old it became holy. They began exploring the ruins together, each step uncovering fragments of what once was, murals of human and alien figures working side by side, temples built to honor stars shaped like spirals, and crystalline tablets filled with half-decoded equations. In one chamber, they found something that made Lyra's blood run cold. It was a mural showing the royal crest of the Valkyrie, the circle surrounded by 7 burning stars, but carved beneath it was something she recognized from her own past. The emblem of Earth's united fleet. She stepped closer, tracing the symbol with her fingers. This can't be real. How would your ancestors know this image? It didn't exist until the 23rd century. Arian's face hardened. Because time doesn't move here the way it does elsewhere. The architects played with creation itself. They could shape future and past alike. Lyra turned toward him. You're telling me they saw Earth before it even existed? Perhaps they made it, he said. The words sent a chill down her spine. Before she could reply, her communicator crackled, a faint signal breaking through static. Captain Hayes, this is the Solace. You have incoming traffic. 3 unidentified vessels entering orbit. Lyra's stomach tightened. They found us. Arian ran to the edge of the ruins, looking up. Through the clouds, faint glimmers of light were descending. Not Valkyrie ships, but smaller, sleeker, and cloaked in black. Not the royal fleet, he said grimly. Assassins. Lyra drew her plasma pistol, eyes narrowing. How do you know? Because I trained them, he said quietly. And they never fail. The ships touched down in silence, their engines fading into a low hum. Dark figures stepped out, tall, armored, faces hidden behind smooth masks. The insignia on their shoulders shimmered red, the mark of the king's shadow guard. One of them spoke, voice distorted by a helmet modulator. By royal decree, you are to be taken alive, Arian. The human will be purged. Lyra raised her weapon. You can try. Before anyone could move, Arian stepped forward, his voice sharp and commanding. If you strike her, you defy your future king. The leader tilted his head. You already did, my prince. And with that, they attacked. Blue light burst through the ruins. Plasma fire scorched the air as Lyra dove behind a fallen column, returning shots with deadly precision. Arian's hands glowed, his energy flaring as he summoned ancient Valkyrie symbols into shields of light. But there were too many of them. Lyra's pistol overheated. One blast grazed her shoulder. Arian caught her as she fell, his voice trembling. "We can't win here." "Then where?" she gasped. He looked at the mural behind them, at the spiral of stars above the human and Valkyrie figures. "There," he said. "The gate." The ground trembled again as the symbol began to shine, reacting to his voice. The air rippled, turning to liquid light. Lyra's eyes widened. "Arian, what's happening?" He held her tightly. "The truth wants to be seen." And before the assassins could reach them, the light consumed them both. When the brightness faded, the ruins were empty. Only the wind remained, whispering over the stones. In the distance, a signal pulsed through the void, reaching far beyond the Empire, into the cold depths of space where something ancient waited. The message was clear, broadcast in a dead language older than stars. "The bloodlines have united. The cycle begins anew." The galaxy burned with rumor. No one knew where Prince Arian and Captain Lyra had gone. Some said they were dead. Others claimed they had vanished into a forbidden dimension. But the truth didn't matter anymore. The idea of them had already set the galaxy on fire. On Valkyrie Prime, crowds filled the streets of the capital, chanting the prince's name. In the lower sectors, citizens painted murals of a human and a Valkyrie holding hands beneath a broken crown. Soldiers tore them down, but more appeared every night. In the royal palace, King Theros watched in silence from his throne of black crystal. A dozen generals stood before him, their armor gleaming like mirrors. "Your Majesty," said General Kareth, bowing low, "our control over the outer colonies is collapsing. Riots on 5 worlds. The human resistance has declared the prince their savior." Theros' eyes glowed red. "Sav, Isle," he hissed. "He is a traitor who defied his blood. He has infected our people with the illusion of equality." Another general stepped forward. "The people believe he lives. If we—" The king raised his hand. "Belief is a disease, and I will cure it." He turned toward the window. Outside, the twin moons shone over the burning city. "Activate the Purge Protocol," he said quietly. "Erase every trace of him, every image, every name. If the galaxy remembers him, it will remember weakness." The generals hesitated. One of them dared to speak. "And the human, sire?" Theros' gaze hardened. "She will die last." Far across the stars, on the outskirts of the neutral zone, a group of battered human ships drifted in the darkness, survivors of the old United Fleet. Their hulls were scarred, their systems dying, but their spirits were alive again for the first time in decades. At the center of the flotilla, aboard the carrier Eden's Call, Commander Myravos watched a holographic transmission, the forbidden image of Arian and Lyra's wedding. The humans around her whispered in awe. "He chose one of us," said a young pilot. "A Valkyrie prince married a human. It means maybe we weren't wrong to fight them." Myra's eyes narrowed. "It means something much bigger," she said quietly. "If the royal blood isn't pure, then the Empire's entire rule is built on a lie." She turned toward her officers. "Send the message to every surviving human colony. The age of silence is over." Within hours, the resistance stirred to life. Old weapons were pulled from forgotten hangars. Fleets that had been hiding for generations began to move again. Meanwhile, the Solace reappeared from the gate's light, torn, smoking, but alive. It drifted in orbit above a dying red star, its engines coughing sparks. Lyra groaned, pulling herself from the floor. "Please tell me we didn't just teleport through a planet." Arian smiled weakly. "Only through half a galaxy." They stood in the control room, staring out at the shattered remains of what looked like an old orbital ring, a station broken apart by war centuries ago. Lyra frowned. "Where are we?" Arian adjusted the ship's scanners. "The outer rim. A dead system. But—" he squinted at the readings. "Something is alive here." Before she could ask, the console flickered, and a voice came through the static. "Unidentified vessel. You are trespassing in restricted space." Identify yourself. Lyra's heart skipped. That's a human signal. Arian nodded slowly. Then perhaps your people survived more than the stories said. Moments later, a fleet emerged from behind the debris field, old human warships painted with a mark of the resistance. They surrounded the Solace, weapons charged. A voice came through again, clearer now. This is Commander Myra Voss of the United Resistance. Lower your shields or be destroyed. Lyra stepped forward to the comm. Commander Voss, this is Captain Lyra Hayes, United Earth Fleet. I'm not your enemy. There was a long pause. Then, disbelief. Hayes, that's impossible. You vanished 50 years ago. Lyra exchanged a glance with Arian. It's a long story, she said. But right now, we have bigger problems. They were escorted to Eden's Call. As Lyra stepped into the command deck, humans stopped to stare. She looked almost the same as the legends. Sharp eyes, dark hair streaked with silver, and the old Earth emblem still stitched on her jacket. Then Arian entered behind her, his royal armor dimmed but unmistakable. Instantly, weapons were raised. Myra Voss glared. You brought an alien prince onto my ship. Lyra raised a hand. Is not our enemy. That's the heir to the empire that killed billions of us. Arian met her gaze calmly. And now, my father wants me dead for marrying her. Perhaps we have a common enemy. The room fell silent. Lyra spoke softly. Listen to me. The empire is collapsing. If we move fast, we can end it. Not with war, but with truth. The Valkyrie and humans share the same origin. I've seen it. Myra stared at her, torn between disbelief and hope. And what proof do you have? Arian stepped forward, holding a crystalline shard. This contains the royal archives. My father erased the records, but the truth still lives here. He placed the shard on the table. The hologram expanded, showing images of the architects, beings of light shaping both human and Valkyrie forms from starlight. Gasps filled the room. Some of the crew fell to their knees, others just stayed in silence. Lyra spoke again. The architects made both of us. The Empire built its power on lies. If we expose this, his father loses control, and we stop another galactic war. Myra exhaled. If this is true, we'll help you. But the Empire won't go down quietly. They never do, Lyra said. Within hours, coded messages began spreading through the outer networks, proof of the royal deception. They moved faster than any fleet, carried by smugglers, journalists, and rogue AI couriers. When the truth reached Valkyrie Prime, riots became rebellion. Generals defected. Entire fleets turned their guns on the royal world. The galaxy had seen a wedding. Now, it would see a revolution. But deep in the shadows of the old empire, another force was watching. On a hidden asteroid base, cloaked in black void light, a circle of figures met in secret. Humanoid, but not quite. Their leader, an android with a half-human face, activated a holoscreen showing Lyra and Arian together. The cycle has begun again, he said. The Union will awaken the reawakening protocol. Another voice spoke from the darkness. Do we stop them? The leader shook his head. No, we wait. Let the galaxy burn itself clean. The others nodded silently. On their arms was the same insignia seen in encrypted transmissions across the galaxy, the Eye of Sol. Far away, on Eden's Call, Lyra stared out the window, watching the stars burn in rebellion. Arian stood beside her. You started this, he said softly. She looked at him, half smiling, half afraid. No, she said. We did. Below them, thousands of worlds moved toward war, and neither of them knew that a shadow older than both their species had just awakened. The stars were burning. Every newsfeed in the galaxy showed the same thing. Uprisings, blockades, and burning banners of the Valkyrie Empire. The truth had escaped its cage, and it was spreading faster than any weapon ever could. Across the void, royal worlds once loyal to King Theros were now in chaos. His voice still echoed on Imperial broadcasts, calling it a human lie, but no one believed him anymore. His own soldiers whispered in secret. The prince lives, and the bloodlines were never pure. The king's wrath was terrible. On Valkyrie Prime, Whole districts were erased in plasma storms. Civilian ships were banned from leaving orbit. And in the palace, King Theros made a vow, one that froze even his most loyal generals. "If the galaxy will not bow," he said, "then it will bane with me." Far from the burning core, aboard the Resistance flagship Eden's Call, Lyra and Arian stood before a holographic map of the galaxy. Red lights marked war zones. Blue lights showed systems joining the rebellion. Commander Myra Voss folded her arms. "Half the Empire's fleets have turned on the king, but the other half are killing anything that moves. If this continues, there will be no galaxy left to save." Lyra nodded. "Then we find another way. Something bigger than war." Arian stepped forward. "The key lies on my homeworld," he said quietly. "Under the Crystal Palace is a chamber known only to the royal bloodline. It holds the Prime Core, the master archive of all Valkyrie history. If we can access it, we can prove the truth to everyone at once." Myra frowned. "And how do you plan to walk into the most guarded fortress in the galaxy?" Lyra gave a faint smile. "We don't walk in," she said. "We sneak in." Hours later, the Solace dropped out of warp near the Valkyrie perimeter. The stars there were choked by war debris, shattered fleets, and drifting wrecks. Arian's voice was calm, but his hands trembled slightly over the controls. "Every one of those ships once served my father," he said. "Now they are just ghosts." Lyra touched his arm gently. "We'll end this, Arian. For them." Suddenly, a warning light flashed. A cloaked drone ship had locked onto them. "Hostile signal incoming." Lyra shouted. Before Arian could react, a voice came through the comm. Cold, mechanical, and far too calm. "Prince Arian. Captain Hayes. You are interfering with a natural sequence. Power down your vessel." Lyra exchanged a look with Arian. "That's not Imperial." "No," he said slowly. "That's something else." The drone uncloaked. Its hull shimmered like liquid metal, its shape shifting and rippling. A symbol appeared on its surface, the Eye of Sol. Arian's eyes widened. "That mark, it was banned thousands of years ago. My tutors said it belonged to a cult, one that believed the architects would return to judge us." Lyra frowned. "Cult or not, they are real. And they've been watching." The drone spoke again. "The union of human and Valkyrie breaks the balance. You have awakened forces that must remain asleep." Before they could respond, the drone fired a beam of white light that engulfed the Solace. Systems went dark, alarms screamed. The ship spun out of control, plummeting toward a nearby moon. "Brace for impact," Lyra shouted. They crashed in a cloud of dust and fire. The hull groaned, but somehow held together. When the smoke cleared, Lyra coughed and dragged herself to her feet. Arian was beside her, dazed but alive. "Status?" he asked. "Bad," she muttered. "Engines fried. No comms. But," she pointed at the scanner, "there's something here. Something alive." They stepped out into the moonlight. The landscape was eerie, covered in glass-like sand and ancient ruins glowing faintly beneath the surface. As they approached one of the structures, Arian felt a pulse, not of light, but of memory. Voices whispered through his mind. "Welcome home, heir of the twin flame." Lyra turned sharply. "What did you say?" "I didn't," he whispered. Then the ground beneath them split open, revealing a spiral staircase descending into blue light. Deep underground, they found a chamber filled with hovering crystals and symbols that shifted between languages, human, Valkyrie, and something older. At the center stood a tall, pale figure made of pure energy. Its eyes were bright as stars, its voice both male and female at once. "You should not have come," it said. Lyra raised her weapon instinctively. "Who are you?" "I'm the echo of the architects, the keeper of the balance between creation and extinction." Arian stepped forward. "Then you know what's happening. The galaxy is tearing itself apart because of us." "Yes," the echo said, "because you forced what was meant to remain separate. The architects built both your species to walk parallel paths, never to cross." Lyra's voice was steady. "Then they were wrong." The echo turned its gaze to her. "You believe love can rewrite design." "Not just love," Lyra said. "Truth. choice, hope. The being seemed to pause, as if processing something far beyond emotion. Then it said quietly, "You may yet prove them wrong, but the Eye of Soul will not allow it." Arian frowned. "Who are they?" "The remnants of the first architects," the echo replied. "Those who chose power over creation. They seek to erase what you are, to restart the galaxy." Lyra's heart pounded. "Then we stop them." The echo stepped forward, touching Arian's chest. "In your blood is the key to the Prime Core. But the path is dangerous. You will face both your father and your makers." Light fled. The chamber shook. "Take this," the echo said, handing them a glowing fragment, a shard of the original architect core. "It will guide you to the truth. But beware. Once you begin, the galaxy will never be the same again." The ground trembled harder. The echo's form started to fade. "They have found you. Run." Lyra grabbed Arian's arm. "Move." They sprinted back up the spiral as the ruins exploded around them. Outside, the night sky was full of shadows, hundreds of drones descending like a metal storm. Arian raised his hand, and the shard flared with light. The Solace's engines roared to life, as if reborn. They leapt aboard just as the drones opened fire. The ship blasted off, weaving through beams of energy, heading toward the stars. Behind them, the moon cracked apart, a blinding explosion that sent shockwaves across the system. Lyra looked back, breathing hard. "They'll chase us anywhere, won't they?" Arian nodded. "Yes, until one of us ends this." Lyra turned to him, eyes steady. "Then we finish it. We take the fight to the heart of the Empire and to your father." Arian's expression hardened. "And when we do, we'll learn if destiny can be broken." The Solace vanished into warp space, a streak of light cutting through the burning dark. Far away, on Thalkiri Prime, King Theros looked up from his throne as his senses detected the flay. "So," he whispered, "the prodigal son returns." And in the void between worlds, the Eye of Soul opened wide. The galaxy held its breath. Every transmission from the Resistance had gone silent. The Imperial networks were collapsing under sabotage and rebellion. Across the stars, fleets stood ready, waiting for a signal, one spark to ignite the final storm. And then, like a ghost from myth, the Solace returned. It emerged from warp above Thalkiri Prime, battered and half alive, its hull glowing faintly from the architect's shard fused into its core. No escort, no fleet, just two beings, one human, one Thalkiri, defying a kingdom. Lyra looked out the viewport. The royal world stretched below, wrapped in defense grids and fire. "We're not going to make it through that," she said quietly. Arian's voice was steady. "We don't need to fight them. We just need to reach the Prime Core." She gave a faint smile. "You always make it sound so simple." He turned to her. "It has to be. If I think about how impossible it is, I'll lose my nerve." Lyra nodded. "Then let's make the impossible happen." As the Solace descended, the Empire unleashed its fury. Thousands of defense drones rose from the surface like a storm of light, surrounding the lone ship. King Theros watched from the palace spire, his face carved in rage and disbelief. "My son returns, with the human who cursed us." General Kareth, now gaunt and trembling, bowed before him. "Sire, your son carries something powerful, a light unlike any known weapon. Our senses." "Silence," Theros said coldly. "Prepare the planetary cannons. If he dares land, the soil itself will reject him." Inside the Solace, the alarm screamed. The shields were breaking, the engines sputtering. Lyra gritted her teeth. "They're locking on with everything." Arian closed his eyes. The shard pulsed in his hand, responding to his thoughts. He whispered, "Not today." Suddenly, the ship's hull shimmered, cloaked in a ripple of pure energy. The drones fired, but the beams curved away, deflected as if by invisible hands. Lyra stared. "Arian, what did you just do?" "I didn't," he said, his eyes glowing faintly blue. "It did." The architect shard was merging with him, fusing into his veins like liquid light. Lyra reached for him, alarmed. "You're burning up." He smiled weakly. Then let's burn bright enough to end this. They broke through the atmosphere. Fire trailed behind them, lighting the night sky above the capital. Crowds below looked up, gasping. "It's him!" shouted a worker in the streets. "The prince! He's alive!" The people began to cheer, their voices echoing through the burning city. For the first time, hope returned to Valkyrie Prime. The Solace crashed into the palace courtyard, throwing waves of dust and fire. From the smoke, Arian and Lyra stepped out, both limping, covered in ash, but unbroken. Thousands of royal guards surrounded them, plasma rifles raised. Pharaohs appeared at the top of the steps, his black crown gleaming under the lightning. "You dare return to this place," he thundered. Arian looked up at him. "I came to finish what you started." The king's voice turned to ice. "You shame your bloodline with this human filth." Lyra's jaw tightened. "Funny," she said. "He's the only one acting human right now." Pharaohs raised his hand. "Kill her." The guards opened fire. In that instant, the shard blazed with light. The energy field burst outward, freezing the plasma bolts in mid-air. The soldiers stumbled back as Arian stepped forward through the glowing storm. Pharaoh's eyes widened. "You've touched the forbidden light, the architect core." "I am the core," Arian said quietly, "and I know what you've hidden from our people." He raised the shard, projecting a massive holographic image above the palace, the true records from the Prime Archive. It showed humans and Valkyrie being born together from the same cosmic forge, shaped by the architects as twin species meant to evolve in harmony. The crowd gasped. Generals dropped their weapons. Pharaohs shouted over the chaos. "Lies! All of it!" But even his voice trembled. Lyra stepped beside Arian. "It's over, Pharaohs. The galaxy knows the truth." The king's face twisted with fury. "Then the galaxy will die with it." He pressed a command rune on his wristband. Deep below the palace, reactors roared to life. The planetary annihilation system, the same one used to erase rebellious worlds. Alarms blared. The ground shook violently. Lyra's eyes widened. "He's going to destroy the planet." Arian turned to his father. "You'd kill billions just to stay a god." Pharaoh sneered. "If I cannot rule it, I will purify it." The palace began to collapse. Fire tore through the corridors as they ran. Lyra grabbed Arian's hand. "We have to stop the overload." They burst into the core chamber, a cathedral of machinery glowing red-hot. At its center pulsed the doomsday reactor, already counting down. Arian looked at the control columns. "I can link the shard to the core, override the detonation." Lyra shook her head. "You won't survive the feedback." He met her eyes. "Neither will anyone else if I don't." Before she could protest, he stepped into the reactor light. The energy engulfed him, his body glowing as he merged with the core interface. The system screamed. Alarms turned into a rising wail. Lyra reached out. "Arian." He smiled faintly. "You said love could rewrite destiny. Let's find out." The light exploded. For a moment, there was silence. Then, across the entire planet, the red glow faded. The tremors stopped. The annihilation sequence shut down. The people looked up in confusion, and then awe. The hologram of Arian filled the sky, his voice echoing through every street, every ship, every corner of the empire. "My people," he said, "the lies are over. The architects made us equal. The galaxy belongs to all of us, not to kings or bloodlines." The transmission flickered, his image breaking apart like mist. "Live free," he whispered, "for both our worlds." Then the light faded. In the ruins of the core chamber, Lyra stumbled to her knees. Smoke filled the air. The reactor was silent, and Arian was gone. Only the shard remained, now dark and cold. She picked it up, pressing it to her chest. "You did it," she whispered. "You saved them." Outside, the people of Valkyrie Prime knelt in the streets, watching the skies clear for the first time in centuries. The Empire had fallen. The Age of Kings was over. But as Lyra looked to the horizon, she felt something else, a presence, distant yet familiar, watching through the void. The Eye of Sol. Its symbol flickered faintly in the clouds, then vanished. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "It's not over," she said softly. She turned toward the stars, her voice steady. "I'll finish what we started, Arian. I promise." And as the sun rose over the broken palace, the galaxy took its first breath of freedom, unaware that a greater shadow was already moving toward it.